This podcast is a part of the Podmania podcasting network. Check out podmania.co.uk to check out more of our great podcasts, features, reviews, match ratings and previews spanning the crazy and diverse world of professional wrestling.
You're going to die.
Hello guys and welcome to the Stardom Cast, your monthly audio source for all things World Wonder Ring Stardom right here on the Podmania podcasting network. I'm your host Rob Goodin. I'm joined as always by Chris O'Brien, who does not want me to refer to him as the Joshi Mark anymore. We are in current contract negotiations as to what his new nickname will be. I'm sure we'll have updates for you in the coming months. But we really would appreciate your support. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. If you can, leave a rating and a review. It really does help out the podcast. Check out the website, www.podmania.co.uk. You can find us on Twitter. It's at the Stardom Cast. Join the new Facebook group, the Podmania Podcast Facebook group, just to talk all things wrestling, to join in the conversation, to join in the chat. It's a really good place. So we started it yesterday, so please come and check that out. But Chris, how are you?
My eyes hurt.
Is that because of my intro, or?
How would that hurt my eyes, Rob? No, for the most part, I've just been typing all day, and I'm so done. Like, politicians do not know how to harness music, and it's starting to get a bit depressing.
Yeah, I believe you mentioned the word Nazi rock before we actually went live.
Yeah, right. So essentially, I'm currently, instead of doing like a dissertation, which you would just expect from fourth year, they split it into two. So you have like a research project and a physical project. Like for the physical project, I put out 2 singles. I was going to put out an EP and run a gig, but then Corona fucked that up. And for my research one, I decided to the research question is, what is the relationship between music and politics? And the answer is really complicated.
Okay, and what is Nazi rock? That's the thing I want to get to here.
Right, so essentially, as you know, a lot of grassroots punk rock stemmed from political disenfranchisement in the 70s, and the music sort of reflected that. So like it became a fairly naturally left-wing genre. But then, because disenfranchisement is what the far right prey on, they started trying to circumvent the genre for their own means, and it kind of worked. Hitler was in the charts. But yeah, it's a mess, and quite frankly, I didn't cover it in as much detail in my essay as I really should have. But as you find out as you're writing, 4,500 words isn't a lot of words.
No, we all remember university. We all remember college, Chris, even if it was a long time ago for me and Garth. We remember.
I don't know if you had this, but every time I start a paper, I'm thinking in my head, oh my God, I'll never reach this word count. And then now I'm just getting to the end of the paper. I'm only 500 words below my word count right now. And I'm like, oh my God, how am I fitting all this in?
All the time, mate. All the time. I think it's how everyone starts every essay. No matter what they say, they can say 2,000 words, and in your head, you know it's not a massive amount of words. But even so, you're still like, I'm never going to reach that. That's fucking miles away. You look and you feel like you've been typing for ages, and you're only 300 words in. And then randomly, you were halfway through your essay, like, 2,400? How has this happened? And you're just going through, deleting all the ands and putting commas.
Yeah. I very quickly want to bring up on this podcast, actually. I'm pretty sure Garth secretly resents us for it.
Explain.
Okay, 2 reasons. One, we now host 2 podcasts without him.
Yes, it is.
In fact, we do constantly invite him on The Young Lion.
We do. And what's the second reason?
Because like when I first started getting really into Stardom, Garth could sort of brush it off and like, he's a young mark. That's what all the young marks are doing nowadays. And then you got into it, and he's sort of like, what? You too?
Yeah, he is. He is very much the odd one out. Now he's the strange one. Never mind. So today, obviously, with the continuing ban on sporting activities and entertainment coming out of Japan, we've decided to do something slightly different in the absence of those live shows. So what we are going to do today is we are going to review one of, if not the biggest feud in Stardom history, the trilogy of matches between Mayu Iwatani and Io Shirai. And we've got loads of background provided for us by some lovely listeners who will call out later. And it's really, really interesting, the dynamic between the two on quite a simple storyline. It produced 3 matches that I think are classed as 3 of the best matches in Stardom history. I think one of them is quite possibly the greatest match in Stardom history. But before we get into that, I just want to run through a couple of other things that are coming up on the Podmania Podcasting Network this week. So obviously today, which is Sunday the 26th as we record, we've obviously got the Stardom Cast episode 4, which will be up at 11 p.m. British time. We've also got Wrestling with John as Royce Isaacs interview from the NWA. On Thursday, he interviews Agony from CCW, so that should be excellent. On Friday, myself and Chris will be joined by Garth on the Podmania podcast, where we'll be looking at the week in pro wrestling, talking about some of the news and the things, basically having a completely informal chat about all things to do with wrestling, before on Saturday, John does his normal flagship Wrestling with John's podcast with George Mackay. I don't think I've missed anything. Just to say that on Monday, we will be dropping our Super Brawl 8 review, which I have written up today, which is about as a card of 2 halves as you can possibly get. Hogan in the main event is just, it's a troll to get through. But apart from that, Chris, let's get straight into it, shall we, my friend?
I mean, I guess we should, yeah.
So, obviously, I've already said that we're looking at the Mayu Iwatani and Io Shirai feud. Now, thank you to Niagara Driver 93 on Twitter, who provided us with such fantastic background to this feud that really did help us understand the feud, because neither of us were watching at this point. We're talking 2016 to 2017. Neither of us were fans at that point. Say again?
Where were you in 2016, Rob?
Where was I?
Yeah. Both in Smartdom and just general life.
Oh, okay. In Smartdom, I'd just got back onto the wrestling train. I'd fallen out of love with wrestling because, Alberto Del Rio. And then I can't remember exactly what brought me back into wrestling, but I think I was...
It was Bray Wyatt several times.
Yes, it was actually. It was Bray Wyatt, which is depressing when you think about influences in your wrestling world. But yeah, that was where I was. I wasn't aware of Japan as a wrestling nation, to be perfectly honest. Not until Wrestle Kingdom 11 was I aware of that. So, what about you? I
was all in on anything but wasn't WWE at that point. Ring of Honor was a big thing. I think this is right around the time I was getting into like ICW. Progress came a year later. I finally started going to shows because I was finally 2017. I was finally in a place where I had the money to go to shows, because before, when I did actually have the money, I wasn't old enough to go to shows. Yeah, Japan was becoming increasingly big. I followed the G1. I didn't watch all of the G1 because was it hard for me to find a stream. But I followed along. My pick was Kenny Omega and Kenny Omega won, although the favorite was Tetsuya Naito. But I prefer picking outside picks because I'm obtuse like that. But yeah, like at this point, the most like women's wrestling I had watched was, oh Christ, it was probably NXT. That's depressing in hindsight.
Yeah, it for me similarly. I've never watched aside from Stardom, a promotion that is all women, all Joshi, and this is a refreshing change of pace. And it was interesting to go back and sort of look at its history, because I've never done that. And again, I just want to thank Niagara Driver 93, because two of the shows that were actually needed to look at, that included the later two matches, aren't actually on Stardom World yet.
No,
so
I had to link it.
Yeah, one was on Daily Motion, and we've provided the links in the description of the podcast if you want to watch them as well. If they are on Stardom World, we do ask you to go and watch them on Stardom World, especially in these times. You know, they could absolutely use the money, and £8.20 a month is absolutely fucking nothing.
I was unbelievable. Yeah, just save the tenner from the fucking network. I was unbelievably annoyed when I was having to get links from it, because I ended up watching this with my friend last night. I'll get him on to that in a second. But getting him the links, and it's sort of like, just give me a means to pay for these matches. I'll pay for them.
But from what I've been told, to understand the majority of this feud, and certainly the start of this feud, we've got to go back past 2016 and the start of this. Even before that, you've got to understand Mayu's story in general. For those who don't know a little bit of background about Mayu Iwatani, she was a shut-in at home. She didn't come out of a room for, nigh on 3 years, and eventually her older brother, or one of her older brothers, managed to get her to go to a Dragon Gate show. It was there that she decided impulsively to become a pro wrestler. She fell in love with Ultimo Dragon, hence her moveset is very much based on Ultimo Dragon. She packed up all the things and left to go to try out for Stardom without telling her parents. And that impulsive nature of Mayu certainly plays a part in this. She was crap to start off with. Apparently, they thought she was going to be the first one to quit in that class. It's obviously, as she was training, she was the last one of that class to win a singles match. And basically, even though she had potential, she wasn't really seen as much. Now, during this time, Io Shirai, who, is at this time the biggest thing in Stardom, she took her under her wing, and they became an extremely successful tag team, Thunder Rock, and they would, along with Kairi Sane, who was at the time Kairi Hojo, they would create the stable Threedom and would become one of the most successful three people in Stardom, and that comes into the end of the Stardom Gold May 2016 show.
Very quickly, Freedom. Is that worse than 3 count?
I think it's worse than 3 count. I think it's better than Fortune from Impact.
Yeah, but to be fair, Fortune was somehow a worse version of both the 4 Horsemen and 3 count.
So yeah, prior to their match in May for the World of Stardom Championship, which Io Shirai held at the time, Mayu actually won the Cinderella tournament in 2016, which, for those who don't know, it's a single elimination tournament where you are granted a wish if you win. And we've said before on this podcast that, the wish usually transitions into a title opportunity.
I really don't think it's ever not been a title opportunity, and I quite frankly think they're missing the boat on that one.
So yeah, that's where this comes from. Mayu challenges Io for the championship. Io at this point is, for all intents and purposes, the ace of Stardom, and even though she'd taken Mayu under her wing, she's seen very much as a sidekick, as, a little sister, the cute little underling who's not got what it takes to challenge the top person. And that, especially in this first match that we're going to talk about in a second, that is very obvious for me. Now, Chris, is there anything you want to add in regard to the build to this first match?
It's worth saying we did have one match before this in the 5-star, which is their G1.
2015, yes, they did.
Yeah, they wrestled to a draw, which sort of set up the beginning of this match. I do want to comment on Io Shirai's, the difference between Io Shirai and Mayu in terms of confidence going into this match. Sort of, he was like, I'm probably going to beat her. It's going to be a great match, but let's be honest, I'm going to beat her. Whereas Mayu, she's very visibly like big anxiety boy.
Yeah, and again,
like
that's sort of.
She had the same look in her face when Hannah put the banana in her hand.
Yes, yeah, she did. It was weird looking at that in one way because obviously we're now used to confident Mayu, icon Mayu. To go back to that, and again, understanding that she was a shut-in and suffering from that anxiety, to then see this sort of Mayu, this nervous and tense, and the enormity of the situation, I think, was starting to hit her at the start of this, that she was going against her tag team partner, and I think it was Ayu who said, she's like my little sister, and you're absolutely right. I think she saw it as more of a nuisance than a legitimate title challenge.
Yeah, she's treating this more as a formality, which would come to bite her and be asked later in the match, to be fair. But she was like, yeah, I could probably beat May. It's May. Look at her.
So let's delve straight into this first match then. So the first match took place at Stardom Gold May in 2016. We delved straight into the match. We had the pre-match promos, which, again, Io had already sort of, smiled at Mayu's opportunity and sort of gone, oh, she's such a lovable rogue. But as Chris said, I'm probably going to beat her. And we'd seen Mayu incredibly nervous in her approach to the match. They both go to the ring, and Chris, you mentioned that they fought to a time limit draw in the 5-star.
Yeah.
Which
is hard in the 5-star. Only a 15-minute time limit.
Well, Mayu wants a no time limit on this match. She says, we know each other that well.
Yeah, but also, did the match even go 30?
No, didn't.
A bit pointless.
It was a little bit. I think this was the shortest match of the three.
Which makes sense.
This first one. The first one went, just let me find out for you. It went 21 minutes and 54 seconds.
Yeah, so if you're going to do that, you need to at least go 3 seconds over first.
Yeah, but I think that's an important story beat here.
Yeah.
Overall, I'll throw to you first, Chris. What did you think of this match as a spectacle?
Well, yeah, they kind of just didn't stop throughout the whole match. I did like the technical exchange. It's very obvious how unconfident Mayo was in terms of her wrestling ability, because she's the first one to give up and trying to out wrestle Shirai, and then they start kicking the shit out of each other. And then you see Shirai turn. It's sort of like Coke Fiend Ibushi. Where Shirai just sort of grabs Mayu's head. She's like, right, fucking enough now.
Yeah.
It was honestly, there's points where my friend was like, oh, are those two shooting? I should explain. The friend who I was watching this with he's seen two types of wrestling in his life. Some of the G1, which I made him watch, and this. Which, by the way, Mayu's now her favourite wrestler, because before his favourite wrestler was Sanada.
I can see the correlation between the two, to be fair.
Yeah, they both wear blue. But no, this match, it's almost has the least amount to say, because it's a match of two halves, because it was spectacle, dropping each other on the head, and then he started going for the leg, which sort of cut off May's game and helped Shirai win. Though, everything was excessively clean. Some of the get-outs were fairly clever. For example, jumping over Shirai, that was really cool. But yeah, for the most part, it's your standard Stardom main event in terms of spectacle.
I liked the way that they started so quickly. Mayu, that nervous energy that Mayu had, clearly she went at Ayu. And now Ayu is an experienced competitor at this point. She's I think this was a 4th title defense at the time. So she's a very experienced in-ring practitioner, and all she did was she waited for Mayu to tire herself out and then began to slowly but surely chip away. And at times, for me, it got a little bit embarrassing. It was like, is this really a title challenge? Mayu, come on. I know you're better than this. And Io was saying the same thing. There was one point where Io sends Mayu into the corner, and Mayu is that fucked that she can't get to the corner. She collapses into the corner. And Io sort of squats by her and sort of looks at her as though to go, really? This is all you've got? And it was, it was sort of shown in the ending when all it took was one moonsault to finish it off. And that is something we are going to come back to over the next 3 matches. But yeah, it didn't pause for a second. It was hard-hitting. The kicks from Io were like, not only were they stiff, not only were they hard, it was like a parent disciplining their child. Like teaching them a lesson.
We really did grow up in very different times, didn't we, Rob?
We still had... Say again?
Were you caned in school?
How fucking old do you think I am?
106.
We still had the terrible neck spots on the behalf of both Mayu and Io in this match. How Io was able to walk after this trilogy is beyond me. I think if this entire trilogy should have a name, it should be Neck Break the Musical. The amount of times that Io is on her, just crippled on her neck from these suplexes from Mayu was just absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, spoilers right now, every single match had either a German on the floor and a dragon on the apron.
Yeah, absolutely. But the most important thing for me here was Mayu did not get her finisher off here.
No, didn't get a 2-step dragon, which, to be fair, people spunked over Omega and Okada for doing that, despite the fact, like, basically every wrestling trilogy has this.
It did. It was still a really, really good story. It was a great opening to the trilogy. I think if this had been a standalone thing and they hadn't have built on it, I'm not saying it would have been disappointing. This was still an absolutely outstanding match. I gave it a 9. But because it was part of a trilogy, because they built on the story, because they threw back to the matches, they referred back to all these spots so often, it makes it so much better in my eyes.
Yeah. The only complaint I have about this match is A, oh my god, girls, stop killing each other. And B, May went for a springboard poison Rana, but it was very clearly botched.
It was, and I think, there's no getting around the fact that was a botch. And to be honest, I can't remember if it was this match or the next match where Io botched going for the moonsault. I think it played well into the storyline of Mayu literally being that exhausted and effectively being taken to the cleaners, being schooled by Shirai that, she couldn't even get moves that she usually would. She couldn't get them off. And I think that worked in the grand scheme of the storyline.
Yeah, no, very true. Like, Mayu did come off as sort of the first-time challenger here.
Yeah. So
it's very clear neither woman came in with a game plan. They were just sort of like, I'm just going to hurt them really bad.
It was good because they mentioned in the promo, especially Io, that they knew so much about each other that, it would have to be the first one to break, the first one to put a foot wrong. And that's what it was. As I mentioned, that quickness that started the match was... There was so many reversals. There was so many just counters and quick counters because they played on the fact that they both knew each other so well because they were both, part of Thunder Rock and part of Freedom, which between them, by the way, held every single belt in Stardom at this point, which I didn't realise until the end when...
because the white belt thing, was it?
No, so Mayu was one half of the Goddesses of Stardom and she had the high speed.
And one of the artist.
One of the artists. Io had the world and artist. And then Kairi had the other two.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a bit jarring, but never mind. But yeah, they played on that, and then eventually it would be Mayu playing on that inexperience, playing on that nervous energy that made the first mistake. And even though she thought, well, once she'd made that mistake, you were never really thinking she was winning this match.
No, to be fair, I didn't think going in she was winning this match. But to be fair, I had to look up when the matches were in cage match. So
this first match ended. Io defeated Mayu in 21 minutes and 54 seconds with a single moonsault, and that is important.
By the way, what a moonsault!
The best without a shadow of a doubt.
Because she just she somehow gets both elevation without losing any of the snap. For example, someone like Vader gets the snap, and someone like Charlotte gets the elevation, but they lose something.
Yeah, I agree. She had both. It's perfect form. When she debuted in NXT, the thing that everyone was talking about was that moonsault to the outside. Not because we haven't seen it a billion times, and that's just from Adam Page. It was because it was just the form of it was absolutely flawless.
That's how I first, believe it or not, that's how I first heard about Stardom. It's like, where's this girl? And there's these two girls in Stardom. One of them has the best moonsault ever, and the other one has the best elbow drop ever. And I was like, nah, it can't be. And then I watched the Mae Young Classic when Kairi Sane came in, and I'm like, oh my god, which made me Google Io Shirai. It's moonsault, and I was like, oh my god. And then for some reason, never checked out any of the other matches.
Well, that's pretty similar to me, actually. I heard of Kairi Hojo before when it was rumoured that she would sign for NXT, which obviously she eventually did. But it was the reason that Bayley had to stop doing the Macho Man elbow. No,
it was the other way around. There was controversy about because they weren't going to let Kairi Sane use the elbow because Bayley was.
Yeah, but then Bayley stopped so that Kairi could do the elbow. That's what I mean.
Yeah, because ultimately, but is there a worse elbow drop than Bayley? CM Punk. But at the time,
it's certainly no Macho Man, is it? It's certainly no Macho Man.
You know how the very underrated elbow drop is Eric Young.
Honestly, man, I know this is really depressing. The last time I saw Eric Young might well have been War Games 2017.
Yeah, that's probably the last time I saw Eric Young. No, that's a lie, because I saw Eric Young at a house show.
He was on a house show?
Yeah, it was Sanity versus The Club. And then Jeff Hardy did a run-in for some reason, despite the fact he had a match with Nakamura in the match before. Basically, they realised that Jeff Hardy gets the biggest pop of anyone on the roster, so we're like, hey, we might as well send him out twice.
So, post-match, Io sort of comforts Mayu. You know, again, like that parent who they know their child's done something wrong, but they're going to comfort them anyway. Sort of, you did well, but not quite.
I'm sorry, your child done something wrong. How dare you try and claim glory, you little shit. Get back down there.
That's exactly what it felt like. You've tried, you've had a go. Now get back to where you belong. You aren't good enough to challenge for this belt yet. I'll cuddle you. That's at least how it came across to me, anyway.
I'm sorry, you get back and immediately in my head is like, Mayu was a man who thought she was alone.
Post-match, they were cornered by Iwatani, Kagetsu, and Kyoko Kimura, who challenged for every belt, I think, was challenged for. It wasn't completely clear, but
every.
They literally said,
all,
we want
baby.
all of it. Just give us all. And at the next month at Korakuen, the Oedo Tai team took the Goddesses of Stardom belt from Thunder Rock, which I think plays into the next stage of this feud, which we'll get to in a moment. Chris, is there anything you want to talk about regarding this first match from Stardom Gold May?
No, again, I think the most clear thing to say here is that it was very clearly it was despite the fact they did start destroying each other, it was kind of wrestled like two people just going for it. Like nothing here was like deliberately mean. Like nothing here was targeted. They were just trying to beat each other.
And I think for me, that was especially Mayu, who hadn't really been in this situation before. And I think she just sort of went in thinking, I'm a good wrestler. Let's see what happens. And that's one big change for me between that first match and the second match that we're going to come to in a moment.
Yeah.
So, in between these times, as I've already mentioned, Iwatani took the tag belts, or the Goddesses of Stardom belts, from Io and Mayu. Now, fast forward to later on in 2016, and Io Shirai has turned heel. She's turned heel and she's formed the stable Queen's Quest with the reasoning that Mayu and the rest of the Stardom roster lacked a killer instinct. So what she did was she formed this stable and basically brought in younger members of the roster to teach them this new clinical killer style of wrestling. And those younger roster members included Hazuki and Momo Watanabe. Bearing in mind that Mayu viewed Io not only as a big sister but as an idol, this heel turn was something that completely derailed her. And she showed just this venomous side when they met again at the year-end climax in December 2016. Chris, is there anything you want to add regarding Io's heel turn, the formation of Queen's Quest, or the general betrayal of Mayu and the rest of Stardom?
Well, I wasn't watching, so I actually don't know all that much, but like it makes sense. Like once you've been ace for a while, you can't stay face. Take some notes, Okada. Like yeah, and then like her change in style was definitely reflected in this match, which we'll go on to in a second. But just heel Io is amazing because you both hate her, but also it's like, oh fuck, you're actually the best in the world, bro. Like, or Stardom heel Io, because
okay,
NXT heel Io is basically just, I'm crazy, me. I'm a fucking Japanese person wearing leather. I can do a moonsault. Yeah.
That's the thing. It's very one-dimensional in NXT, and once I read,
everything is one-dimensional nowadays.
True.
In NXT nowadays, everything is like Johnny Gargano is basically a one-dimensional Sami Zayn. Tommaso Ciampa is basically a one-dimensional Kevin Owens. And like, fucking just stop already and do something else, you cunt. Anyway, sorry, continue.
No, it's absolutely fine. And I was a little bit concerned regarding the heel turn of Io. You know, is she just going to be fucking mental? And she wasn't. It
was like if Randy Orton could run.
She was cerebral, almost. You know, she was very clear in what she was going to do, what she was going to take out.
Very cerebral, very deliberate, very Jay White-esque without being slow.
Oh yeah, it was still wrestled at a phenomenal pace, absolutely.
Oh, like, faster than you could think. But then, like, seriously, I was trying to take notes and I just gave up. But yeah, like imagine if Jay White went as fast as Kota Ibushi, that sort of gets you somewhere near how EU was. How many times are we going to say that fucking name, that boy? Was going in that this time, and it's sort of crazy how she managed to pull it off. And we'll get into that in a second.
So we headed into the year-end climax show in 2016, which was 22nd of December, and Mayu was challenging once again for the World of Stardom Championship. And this match saw a completely different Mayu, and this was clear from the opening promos. Now, me and Chris spoke about how in the opening promo of the first match, Mayu was completely unrecognisable. She was nervous, she was quiet, and it was like, okay, it's going to be interesting to see how this translates into a match. Here, she said about, 7 words, but each one of them, you could almost feel the anger and the venom in them. She didn't shout, she didn't scream, she said them very, very calmly in a way that made me think, oh my god, I do not want to be Io Shirai. And then she walked out. And it was a completely different Mayu. And the most important thing I got from this was, here, she has that plan she didn't have in the first match.
Yeah, but can she execute it? We don't know. We'll have to find out. Subscribe to Stardom World. Yeah, no, but it's clear both people had a more deliberate plan going in, and whoever can win is the person who can start executing their game plan first.
So we start, and it's a quick start similar to the last match, but again, Io, being the experienced competitor and being the heel, gains the upper hand really, really quickly. But not before we had a slap, because in the first match we didn't say this. Obviously, with both women being face, handshake at the start. With both hands, a really cordial handshake. Here, Io, the bitch, still offers her hand to Mayu. And Mayu, it sort of looks like she's going to go for it, and you're like, oh, Mayu, don't be a dick. Seriously? Come on, you've just done so. And then absolutely slaps the shit out of Io's face instead of the handshake. And it was like, yes! I actually cheered, which is amazing. This Io sort of gained the upper hand again quite quickly, targeting Mayu's knee. There was a spot where Io put Mayu's knee in a chair and then drop kicked the chair on the outside. I've never seen that done like that before. No,
but by the way, can I just say when E took control, just the slipping underneath and taking the leg, that was amazing.
She did it twice, and both times looked awesome.
No, but the thing is, the first time it happened, it came out absolutely nowhere, and she just pulled her into the post. It's like, oh my god, that's such a perfect way to subvert what Mayo's going to do. And then she starts attacking Mayo's leg, which means Mayo can't be more athletic, which Mayo responded to by just going, well, I'm just going to drop you on your head.
This was, yeah.
I can't run. I'm going to drop you on your head so many times.
Just unbelievable brutality. A completely different change in character from the Mayu we saw in the first match. And again, the background information we've received is amazing, but Mayu would sort of second guess herself before, where she was, she had the talent, or she'd have the ideas, but not necessarily be able to carry them off. And here, completely different. She was just, it was a brutal side of her. She, there was dragon suplexes on the apron. There was a dragon suplex on the floor. There was regular dragon suplexes. She must have dumped Io Shirai on her head 6 times. And I'm talking so high on the back of her head. It was almost uncomfortable to watch. But at the same time, Mayu plays the underdog so well that you can't help cheering for it. And this, take nothing away from Shirai. Shirai played the cocky, arrogant ace heel to an absolute T in this match.
Yeah, she changed up her, the fact that she changed up her style but very, very clearly worked. And then she threw in all these little tiny things. For example, every time she'd go for a moonsault, she'd step over Mayu. She'd step on Mayu to go for the moonsault.
Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, I think in this match, she was on the other side from the turnbuckle, so she walked around Mayu so she can step on it.
It was amazing, but on the flip side of that, there was callbacks to the previous match. The move that set up the moonsault in the first match was a tombstone. Io goes for the tombstone here, and Mayu reverses it into a tombstone of her own, which she doesn't do. But she went for, proving that she's thought about the previous match and she's got a game plan. I mean, admittedly, it didn't work. She reversed it. But even so. And this time, one moonsault wasn't enough to keep Mayu down. She had to hit 2. And there was just little things like that. And then there was the time when Ayu's going for a suicide dive, I think. and which hit Mayu in the first match. Mayu this time almost kneels down by the apron so that she can't do it. She blocked the 619, which she got hit with in the first match. There were so many callbacks to that first match. These two women put on an absolute brutal, well-worked match that I had to give it 10. I couldn't not give it 10.
Yeah, like some of the switches in momentum was so cleverly done. For example, Mayu went for a kick on Eve, stupidly using the leg that was already injured, and you can tell which one it was because it was the one that's now covered by her gear. And then I managed to catch that into a snapdragon. It was just beautiful. And then, yeah, like the fact that Mayu kicks out at 1 made you go like, oh fuck, Mayu's gonna win this. And yeah, everything about this was great. Apart from there are points where I feel like Mayu just stopped selling the leg.
Yeah, she did. Which, you know me, I'm not a massive fan of, but
It's your favourite, so you're gonna forgive her.
No, I think she sold it enough. There's a moment in a match where, you know, if you're going to sell it ridiculously, then it still loses its impact. I thought she sold it enough. And I think she still had, even though she was far more brutal and she had more of a game plan, and both of those things were evident in the transition between match 1 and match 2, she still had that sort of naive excitement when she was on top, and that links into the spot you were talking about, going for that kick with the injured leg. She saw that Shirai was on the back foot and thought, I need to capitalise here, and went for a kick, which is exactly what Shirai wanted. She caught the bad leg, hit a suplex, she's back on top, and that was just masterfully done throughout this match by Shirai. I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about those 2 dragon suplexes.
I don't want it. It gives me fucking Vietnam flashbacks. Like, Jesus Christ. Can you think of, like, more brutal suplexes? Like, I can think of maybe Kenny Omega's Snapdragon on the floor. Well, actually, I say more brutal. We have covered Misawa versus Kobashi. But still.
I don't know. I think the one on the apron, this one, more than the one in the next match, this one just, she seemed to hit so high up, and it was so like, you know, they'd reversed so many suplexes and, you know, in the last match and leading up to this, you just assumed it was going to be another reversal, and then when it didn't happen and she landed and then just sort of slumped to the floor quite wonderfully. I think Shirai's selling was a little bit underrated, to be perfectly honest. Mayu sold well, Shirai sold fantastically.
Yeah, but like, Mayu had a harder thing to sell. She had to keep a limb going in a very fast-paced match, and then like Shirai just had to be woozy.
Which she did even more in the third match, which we'll get into in a moment.
Yeah, to be fair, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, there is another reason for that, which we'll get into in a moment. This, for me, this is the greatest Stardom match I've ever seen. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was fast-paced, bell to bell. I was wrong. This was actually the shorter match of the two. This was a shade over 17 minutes.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Stardom are really good at making matches like they go under 20 minutes feel like hour-long epics. And it's all because they're paced so well.
Yeah, the greatest compliment I can give these first 2 matches was that both matches were single cam matches. So you often didn't have the greatest view of things.
Annoyingly so, because you could actually see other cameramen walking around the ring. It's like, well, why? What's the point?
To me, and it does sometimes put me off on New Japan shows, especially things like Tag League or the middle of a Best of the Super Juniors. It can get quite annoying. Here, it didn't bother me in the slightest because I was that invested. I know it's completely different as well. You're talking about a blood rivalry at the top of a card and at the midpoint of a tournament. I know it's completely different, but even so, I was that invested in this match that this didn't feel 17 minutes, and I never once was bothered by the fact that it was single cam and no commentary.
Yeah. To be fair, I'm just used to Stardom being no commentary. It's weird now when it has commentary. But yeah, this is one of the best Stardom matches I've ever seen. I'm not sure it's my favorite, but only because like it's not following along. I tend to love a match more is when I'm following along with the product already. So the two that I like more than this, or the two or three that I like more than this, are because I watch them while following the product.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like this is the best Legacy Stardom match I've seen, which is very few. I should probably go back and watch more now that I have the time on my hands. I say that I'm still watching through G127 and have no time for uni work. But when I do have time on my hands, I should go back and do that now that there's no new wrestling. But also I want to watch Noah. Do you see? I'm a very indecisive man. But yeah, this was great. Like it speaks volumes. So this is one of very few Stardom matches that Meltzer felt compelled to review.
Yeah. And he gave it 4.5 stars, which, you know...
Which to be fair, with Meltzer, seems to be a very token star rating nowadays.
It does, but I think it was a fair rating. I'm not going to argue with it, you know, for the sake of half a damn star.
Rating, but like nowadays, like I don't like shitting on Meltzer's rating, but he gave Ospreay and Kenta 4.5 stars.
Yeah. I just think that this was great.
If it's two people he's a fan of, he's probably going to give it 4.5 stars.
Yeah.
But no, this is great. I'd give it a 9 just because I felt Mayo's selling was a bit inconsistent, and at times it took me a tiny bit out of the match. But also, it's still spectacular.
Yeah, I mean...
That's me nitpicking, but also, but just because there was a moment where I was at this match means in my head I can't give it a 10.
It did seem a little bit weird that Io was targeting the knee. Of all the things to target for Mayu, you know, thinking of a finish, but I suppose with her being, you know, an athletic, quick-paced competitor, it makes sense.
Yeah, but also, you have to realise with the finish, she has to bridge.
True story.
And also, does the springboard poison Rana to set it up.
Yeah. The post-match promos then, Io again talks about how Mayu wouldn't lie down. Mayu said, with a lot of fire, which I appreciated, a completely different promo to a pre-match one. She said she was coming for that belt. She thought that this would be a last opportunity, but it's not going to be. I'm going to keep trying. You had better not lose that belt to anyone else, because I am going to take it from you. Which was great, and then sort of nullified entirely when Kairi Hojo got into the ring and sort of went, what's going on here then? Which I thought was quite funny. It juxtaposed the seriousness a little bit, but it did make me laugh.
To be fair, nowadays, how often does that happen after Mayu matches where just everyone starts getting in the ring? Like, think of the anniversary show from earlier this year, where you had Mayu finishing and then B coming out to attack her, and then Saki coming out and her going, I don't have time for you. And then Sairi getting up on the, not Sairi, what's the name? So one of the two getting up on the screen going, I'm going to challenge you, and then she didn't, but then it led to I can't talk because it's bad on a podcast. To the horror match, which was great. But yeah, how often does everyone get into the ring after a male match nowadays? It's almost a staple. For example, when Jungle Kyona was like, I'm going to challenge you, and she's like, what? No, I already have a challenger. Ask me after that match.
So basically the running theme of these two matches is that Io didn't believe that Mayu had the credibility to challenge her for the title. And, you know, even though Mayu pushed her to her absolute limits in that second match, Io still believed that she was a cut above Mayu, and Mayu wasn't on her level. We moved to June 2017, which is just a few weeks after Kairi Hojo left Stardom to be part of NXT. Mayu had just defeated Kairi for the Wonder of Stardom Championship, the white belt. So at that point, it's going to be a double title match. And with it being a double title match, with obviously Io holding the World of Stardom Championship, Mayu holding the Wonder of Stardom Championship, it was an unofficial match to crown the top star of the promotion moving forward. It was almost a changing of the guard match, if you know what I mean.
Well, it had to be at this point. It was basically all but confirmed that Shirai was going to WWE.
It was, but it hadn't been officially confirmed at this point. There had been rumours for months and months that her and Kairi were going to leave at the same time, and then Io didn't.
That's only Io didn't pass a medical test, and that's why she didn't. And that's why she waited a year.
Really?
Yeah, that's the rumour that I remember. Don't quote me on it, but that's definitely what I remember from the time.
Something else to note from this at this point is that Io had a legitimate neck injury moving into this match. So just bear that in mind as we talk about this match. So the match we're going to talk about, the final sort of build, the final match in this feud took place on June the 21st, 2017. Again, as all these matches have been, at Korakuen Hall. It's interesting to look at these attendances just very, very quickly, Chris, before we move on to the match. The announced attendance for this match, bearing in mind this was a double championship match, was 750 people. We reviewed the 9th anniversary show, and I think the confirmed attendance was 1,500, which goes to show...
They're outdrawing All Japan and Noah, so...
Yeah, it goes to show the difference that Stardom is feeling at the moment. But yeah, anyway, the main event. Chris, what did you think?
First of all, Io's hair is now red, which means she's went full evil. My friend actually said as soon as Mayu came out, he was like, "Oh fuck, she's an anime protagonist. I get it now."
yeah. I think that's the point.
Because but anyway, come out and God, this match was really good. Which is a running theme with VC. They both sort of had the same game plan, but Mayu was more ready for it. She was like, she's probably going to go for my knee, so I should probably do less kicks. And dropping on her head worked a lot last time. I'm going to do more of that.
It was interesting because I said to you before we came on air that especially these last two matches were very similar. And by that I mean that there was a lot of similar callbacks to previous spots and things like that. So we had the Dragon Suplex on the apron again. We had the Dragon Suplex on the floor again. And even though you might think, well, they've already done that, it worked into that story. And there was different bits. So, for example, in this match, of the three, this was the only match where they fought into the crowd.
Yeah. And then crazy things happened.
Yeah, we had Mayu hitting Io with that amazing running head scissors, which was amazing. We had just all of the Dragon Suplexes. I cannot begin to describe how many times Io was dropped on her head and on her neck, to the point where there was one particular sell from, I think it was about 3/4 of the way through the match. And the woman is exhausted. You can see for the first time, she's held this belt for 500 days. This is her 15th title defense, and it's Mayu's third attempt out of those 15. And you can just see, and this is the first time, just that flicker of doubt in Shirai's sort of eyes. And then she gets hit with another Dragon Suplex, and she just collapses on the outside. And she's literally not moving. And you do think, is this selling or is she actually in pain? Because it just never stopped. Never
at all, in any way.
Absolutely incredible stuff.
It's funny though, when they went for the when Mel did the crossbody off the, what would that be, the hallway of Korakuen. I pointed out to my friend, this isn't even the dumbest thing she's done because she's been hanged off of that thing.
Yeah, she has.
Several times.
I think something good as well was that throughout these 3 matches, Mayu hit her finisher once, and it was her version of the Dragon Suplex, again, harkening back to the person who got her into this business, effectively. She managed to hit it, it was protected, and it was that move of all moves that got her the World of Stardom Championship, allowed her to be the icon at the top of that card. And again, to this point, to this day, she's the only person to hold the top 2 belts in Stardom simultaneously.
Yeah, which makes sense. Yeah, it's weird because like this match is less to say because so much of it was very similar to the match before, only like little, like tiny little subversions that made it feel different and like made it so put an exclamation point on the fact that these 2 do know each other. For example, whereas I mentioned that bit in the first match where at the start where Mayo sort of jumped over Shirai, instead of jumping over to Shirai when she did it, she just jumped on Shirai.
Yeah, there were subtle nuances like that, like, for example, when Shirai slid back into the ring in both previous matches, Mayu had given her a little bit of time to get herself sorted. Here, she slid into the ring, and Mayu stomped a mud hole in her as soon as she got into the ring.
Yeah.
And it was that renewed brutality. Just the fact that it was almost like she'd sat at home and gone through those previous 2 matches and gone, right, I'm going to study everything and make sure that I am ready for all possible possibilities. And I'm just going to make sure that this champion, who notoriously will not stay down, I'm going to make sure that she has got no fucking choice. I'm going to knock her the fuck out. Even if I have to drop her on her head 25 times, she is not going to get up.
Not just that, she played smart. Like, for example, every time she'd find herself on the back foot in the other matches, she'd just try to deliver more bombs. Whereas here, she'd try and create a bit of distance so she can recover and then hit the bomb. Like, for example, when we were both on top, she could have delivered like Hurricane Rana or something, but instead she did an arm drag just so they can create distance so she can recover. So she can then go deliver bombs.
Yeah. And I can understand why some people might criticise and say, well, if it's a similar match, then what's the point in watching it? I think if you followed the story all the way through and you understand and you're paying attention, you understand those, as I said before, those subtle nuances before each match and understand them during each match, I think it adds a completely different dimension to it.
Yeah, I think a great way to sort of punctuate this is if we contrast this with, say, Gargano and Ciampa from NXT, where like their callbacks are more just repeating spots.
Mm.
Like, for example, take the latest match in NXT, which people are telling me a match of the year, and I think they just don't understand wrestling. But fuck you, Marks. But most of the spots in that match were just the same as other matches, and then like that's my main problem with WWE trilogies and like, prolonged storytelling in WWE as a whole, where like we just do the same thing over and over again. Like we've done DIY breaking up 3 separate times, and twice we did it the same way.
One of the things for me, go on, carry on. I thought you'd finished.
Like whereas here, like everything. Like, they did a lot of the same thing, but they fucked about the cadence. They fucked about with what that thing achieved, and that helped build the story. Because at the end of the day, every wrestler has a limited moveset unless your name's Jack Evans. So you can only really do so much within 3 matches. But, like, at that point, it's about where you put the big moves to put forward the storytelling. And, like, they did that here, and, like, in other trilogies, especially in the Fed and especially in like a lot of places that try to be like the Fed, that doesn't happen. Like for example, the trilogy versus Pac and Omega, I could not tell you anything about the 3 individual matches because the same things basically happened.
There's 2 things that I want to talk about that summarise this entire trilogy of matches. In all 3 matches, Io straps in the cloverleaf and the crossface. If you watch Mayu's face in the first match, she is panicking. She's scrabbling about, there's fear on her face, and you just think, oh fuck, she's going to tap out. Fast forward to the third match, and Io, again, I keep flitting between Io and Io. I apologise, the same person.
It's for me, Dawaki.
Dawaki. She straps in the same moves, but Mayu's face remains calm. It's like she's thinking, okay, I need to get out of this now. What do I do? It's what they tell, if you panic, you'll make rash decisions. Whereas if you're calm, collected, you've thought about it, you'll make the right decision. And it seemed that Mayu had done that progressively throughout those three matches. And it was a wonderful, wonderful sort of improvement, sort of journey that she went on in these three matches.
Yeah, no, you can definitely see the act. Like, she went into the first match not confident enough, and then she went into the second match, you can see it in her entrance, far too confident.
I mean, this match, again, was the longest of the trilogy. It went at 27 minutes and 52 seconds. And I think that speaks volumes as well. In the first match, Io was able to put her away quite handily, despite Mayu wanting that no time limit. In the second match, it was short, brutal, and basically both women put everything into it in a very short space of time. It worked with the story. Here, Mayu stretched Io. She wanted to really push in. Once it went past about 23, 24 minutes, you could see Shirai beginning to panic. Shit, I can't put her away. It took 2 moonsaults to put her away in the previous match. How many am I going to have to do now? And my neck is fucked. No,
and what you saw there was when she went for moonsault, she stopped stepping over Mayu. She's like, right now, there's no time to be a dick here. I need to put Mayu away.
That was the one thing I loved. In the previous 2 matches, she, as you mentioned, she stood on Mayu to go and get to the moonsault. And here, this was the only match. Because she didn't walk, she ran.
Yeah, she's like, fuck, fuck, fuck. It's like at the end of Sonata and Okada.
Yeah, I loved it. This trilogy was absolutely fantastic. Sorry.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the best wrestling trilogies of last decade. I can only think of a couple really that beat it when you're just looking at them as pure trilogies. Because it's super weird, like, it may not be like one of the best feeds, but in terms of like trilogies, I can think of only like one better, maybe 2. And they both involve Kenny Omega.
It just goes to show as well, it's such a simple storyline. It's a tale as old as time. Yes, that's right. A Beauty and the Beast reference. I just think that it's such a simple storyline that's been told over and over again, but they made it work, and they made it work so well in the space of, 6 months? Just over a year, isn't it? From May 2016 to June 2017. It worked so well. And honestly, I was so invested in these matches, and I was so invested in the story that, this might be one of my favourite trilogies, along with Okada and Omega. Completely different, so please don't get at me and saying, you comparing this to Omega and Okada. No, it's just a completely different trilogy that I enjoyed in a completely different way, in a completely different underlying story.
I also jump to like Omega and Naito, but then again the last one didn't really stick the landing. It's hard to think of a Naito Okada? No, because that's more of a trilogy. But again, I guess it depends what you count as a story. It's weird, like, because in Japanese wrestling trilogies are weirdly rare because they always go over that.
Was Masawa Kobashi a trilogy?
No, but you've had hundreds of matches.
No, I mean, was it a set trilogy where Kobashi eventually took the GHC Heavyweight Championship off Masawa? Was that as part of the trilogy?
I don't think, because Kobashi was originally meant. I think he was originally meant to hold the GHC title, and then he got injured. Because the initial program was between him and Jun Akiyama, and then Kobashi got injured, so the program became between Akiyama and Masawa, I think.
Right. Okay, fair enough. Question then, Chris. So, I've gone match ratings. The first one I gave 9, the second one 10, the third one 9. What would you do?
Oh, I did 9 across the board.
9 across the board. Which one is your favourite match of the 3 and why?
That's like asking me to pick my favourite Garth.
Of the 3 Garths you know?
You don't know how many Garths I know. Actually, no, you do, because I'd never heard the name Garth before. So the first week of knowing Garth, I kept calling him Gareth. I don't know. I don't know. It depends what you want, really. If you want just spectacle, the first one's going to do it for you. If you want if you want an almost cerebral dismantling of a leg at a pace even Sonic the Hedgehog would blush at, you want the second one, and then if you want your feel good babyface win, you want the third one. Really, I could not tell you. It's one of, you know what it's like? It's like Kill Bill. You never watch Kill Bill on its own. You always have to watch part 1 and then part 2.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great analogy.
I've never seen Kill Bill. Just my movie friends keep saying that every time we recommend Kill Bill.
How have you never seen Kill Bill?
Right. If we did a podcast about the movies I haven't seen, we'd be here all day.
Absolutely mental.
They're on the list.
Anyway, let's move on then from this trilogy. We did have a question from Dylan on Twitter at DRB4L, and he asks, All Japan Pro Wrestling have talked about adding a women's division to the company. Which Joshi do you think would be a great start to kick off the division? So basically, Chris, if you're the booker of All Japan and you are starting that women's division, who are you having as your figurehead? Who are you building the division around?
Very quickly, this wasn't from All Japan. This is from Schwammer. In an interview, it's worth noting that wrestlers say shit like this all the time in interviews.
True. I think the fact that people high up in the company, and again, I know Sawama is a worker, but he's also the champion. The fact that he's referencing this, I'm not saying there's anything to it. There probably isn't anything to it. But the fact that it's been spoken about, it's an interesting talking point.
I'm actually... It'd be easy to jump to someone from Stardom, because that's what we know, but also I don't think that would be a good idea, because Stardom has a set roster and seems very unlikely to share, especially given their New Japan connections. Maybe Ihara from Marvelous. That would be a good fit. No, it's a super weird question to ask. So, the 2 main Joshi promotions in TJPW and Stardom, they're both owned by different companies already. TJPW's DDT and then Stardom's New Japan. So super, the sort of showing my ignorance of wrestling as a whole. I don't know. Honestly, if they're gonna have an All Japan division, I think it'd be worth them just picking up a Joshi promotion and having that as their starting base and just rebranding it.
I agree with you on that point, because I don't think there's enough free agents or freelancers who'd be able to do that.
Yeah. Is Kagetsu retired, or is she freelancing right now? Because so that'd be a great get.
She was the first one that sort of sprang to my mind. See, what I did was I threw all logic out the window and just thought, if I've got every Japanese female wrestler, who am I going for? Now,
I mean, go Asuka, because everyone will follow that.
I wasn't going to say Asuka now. And Kagetsu was someone I thought about, along with Hazuki, actually. But the one I would actually go for, and it's possibly a strange one, and I'll explain why in a minute, I'd actually go for Momo Watanabe. Now,
she has proved she's an ace in the past.
The reason that I would go for Momo is because she's 20 years old. She's got an incredible amount of upside. Not only is she great in ring, she's great at psychology, she tells great stories, and she keeps people engaged. Now, you look at the person who's done that for the men's division, in All Japan Pro Wrestling, Kento Miyahara. You build someone young in that sort of mould, then you've got a bona fide star on your hand that's going to be at the head of that division for a long time. And to me, the person in Stardom who is like that the most is Momo Watanabe. And then, again, you put someone like a Kagetsu, say she's only retired from Stardom, for example, you put her with someone like a Kagetsu as a foil, as that main foil for her, you're not going to go far wrong.
Yeah, I think if you get in the veteran role, Meiko Satomura would also be a great shout.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think she'll do anything to keep Sendai Girls going, so that'd be a good shout. And then from that, you do have a few good international names you can bring in. Like Sendai Girls has connection with like Jordan Grace and Minnie McKenzie and Charlie Evans. So like, I don't know. Like, again, I think if we're gonna go down that route, just straight up buying, say, like Ice Ribbon or Sendai Girls would be a better way to do it. But like, if it's gonna be one figurehead, I'm saying Ihara, just because. I mean, like, she's so imposing. Like, oh my god. And also, like, she can kick the shit out of you. Like, she doesn't fit, like, the young, like, Kento Miyahara-esque mold, but she fits more like, I don't want to say a Schwammer because she's not that old, but sort of like that big man All Japan style, type mode, like your Ishikawas, like your Schwammers, like your Zeuses. She sort of fit that mold, but, like, if it's an ace, yeah, I find it hard to go wrong with someone like Momo, but like just because I can't see it happening from Stardom, maybe try and pluck Kazuki or try and pluck someone else from Marvelous. I have no idea what the state of Marvelous is right now, but like everyone else is sort of lifers from my understanding. So, or like Suri, because in Stardom right now, because she's a freelancer technically.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I don't, and this is potentially unfair because from what I've seen of it in ring, she's great. Bit loud, as we mentioned in the last podcast, but she's great in ring, and I don't know if I've seen enough of her to be a figurehead. I think if you put her, Kagetsu, Ihara, and Momo in a division as like the four you build around, your division's going to be sound. I do think if this was to become a serious thing, which again, I'm not entirely sure how much it will be. If it was to become an actual thing, I think you go the route of buying a promotion, because if you look at what the WWE were having to do to even begin to think about their NXT Japan plans, it was going to have to be to buy an already existing promotion. They weren't going to be able to create their own promotion because that's not how Japan works. I think it's different if you're adding a division to your promotion, not starting a promotion from scratch.
Yeah. Actually, if we're just adding women, I kind of want intergender wrestling like we do in DDT. Partly because it's something to set yourself apart, and that's sort of what All Japan's missing right now. And secondly, their junior division is dog shit.
Yeah, they have only got a handful of decent juniors. I think before they talk about adding anything, Chris, they need to add things like name cards.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But like, they also need to like build up a division I have, because that's always been my biggest thing. Like, for example, the question of should, say, New Japan add a women's division comes up a lot, and like, there's always two diametrically opposed sides, and somehow they're both wrong. So like, there's the side that argues for it because like WWE does it and they're the industry leader, and then there's the other side who argues for it because argues against it because they don't mix. Both of which are wrong. Both of which are wrong way of looking at things. The way I say it is, I really want a women's division in these places if they can handle it. And you look at some, say, New Japan, they have 500,000 belts and can only book 2 of them at any given time. Like at any given time, at least 2 of those divisions have fallen down the wayside. And then you have like All Japan, who only has 5 belts. What was it? The Triple Crown, Junior, 2 tags, and
TV.
So that's 5. The TV title I see barely defended. How many defenses has Yoshitatsu even had of that? It seems like somebody just throwing people with Western name recognition. And then you have like the 2 tag belts are built well, to be fair, but then you have like your junior mat division, which like when someone like Akira Francesco is a contender, you need to rethink your division, because my God, do I not like Akira Francesco? He is so generic. Like, oh my God, it's like if Jim Cornette created a jobber.
I have no response to that because I don't follow enough for me to know who that is. As for Yoshitatsu, he's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 title defenses, and he's held the belt for 335 days, was it? 335 days. However, I believe he has got a title defense against Kento Miyahara coming up.
Because Kento needs to do something now but Schwama's champion.
Exactly.
What I just really want from Schwama being champion is him versus Ishikawa, to be honest.
Just give me that for days.
Because, oh my God, just stop hitting each other, lads, but also never stop.
Anyway, I think that about sort of seals off our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. It's been a real pleasure looking back at this trilogy of matches and the storyline going into it. And they're up there now with 3 of my favourite matches, and certainly one of my favourite matches of all time, which I think is not something I say lightly, trust me. But anyway, thank you so much for listening, guys. We really do appreciate it. Again, as I said at the top of the show, please check out the podcast anywhere you get your podcast. Subscribe, leave a rating, review, share the word would be great as well. Check out the website, www.podmania.co.uk. You can find us on Twitter at the Stardom Cast. Again, join the Podmania Facebook group, again, just to talk about all things wrestling in a nice environment. You can talk to me on Twitter at RealRobGoodwin. Chris, where can they find you?
And Bushi.
And we'll talk to you guys again soon.
Now you're going to die.